So stances are, like I said, are based on what we do last. And since that's a pretty hard thing to be in tune with, a pretty hard thing to understand and to see, the Enneagram talks about our stance, or our repressed center, as how we're moving to get our needs. And this is actually a super cool piece of the Enneagram. It's based on some developmental psychology work by the psychologist Karen Hornevy. Basically, she mapped out the way that children attach to their caregivers. So it's all based on attachment theory. Basically, there are 3 ways that you can move. There's 3 ways you come at the world in order to get your needs met. And one of those is to move towards people. One is to move away from people. And then one is to kind of manipulate people and situations in order to get what you want. Got some like great eyes there, like, oh my God. It's gonna happen. I have yet to teach this workshop where someone hasn't cried. So fair warning. Last weekend, I was teaching it in Kansas City, waited till the very, very end, literally teaching the last number. And I look over, and like one of the women was like, tissues over there. And I look over, and like she's bawling. She's like, this is me. And so I have to like hand her the tissues. And so it's okay. Like if you're crying, it's all good. We'll get some tissues. We'll get through it together. Yeah, it's good. So our stances. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the dependent stance. These are the people that move towards other people in order to get their needs met. These people are reliable and loyal. A lot of times people in the feeling triad see a lot of similarities in the dependent stance, but there are some differences where people in the feeling center move into a room and can feel the emotional pitch. Dependent stance people do something similar, but what they're feeling is not necessarily the emotions in the room. What they're feeling is the expectations. So it's something a little bit different. And so these are people in the dependent stance who are keenly tuned into people's expectations and they want to meet them. A lot like people in the feeling center, they're deeply concerned with where they are with you. They want to be like, are we good? Are you good? I'm good. Are you good? I'm good if you're good. Are we good? Okay. That's the kind of the feeling of people in the dependent stance. They often seek out a lot of advice. They can be seen as needy and codependent. So codependency is not exclusive to this type, to these types, but they are, that is something that they struggle with quite a bit. But with that, these are people who are deeply reliable and loyal. These are what I like to call like your ride or die. Like these are the people who are with you like no matter what. Anybody feel dependent stance? Got a few? Yeah, maybes? Okay. Then we have our withdrawing stance. So if dependent stance, I like to use a car analogy. Dependent stance people, when they need something, they're driving into town to go get it. The withdrawing stance, when they need something, they're driving out to the country to go get it. They're like, I do not want to be around people right now. These are people who move internally to get their needs met, where the dependent stance, their sense of self is kind of set outside of themselves and with other people. In the withdrawing stance, their sense of self is deeply within themselves. So these are people who can tend to be introverted or shy, although not always, and not everybody who's shy is in the withdrawing stance, but that's a strong correlation. These people are very slow to take action. As there's a teacher who says, these are people who are slow to start projects and then slower to finish. It's like it takes them a while to get going, and then they slow down from there. But these people, they have a deep and interesting inner world. So whether that's intellectually or emotionally, they're very like, they're just kind of inside themselves in some way that for them is very, very comforting. So they hang out inside more than anywhere else. Anybody withdrawing stance? Got so much? Some maybes? Cool. And then we have the aggressive or assertive stance. I tend to like assertive better just because it sounds slightly less shitty. So these are people who, some teachers call it moving against other people. So these are the people who try to work situations to their benefit. These are people who are, they're very comfortable in leadership roles. Often they find themselves in leadership roles without knowing why or how. I am in this stance, and I've often been given management positions that I was neither qualified for nor really wanted, but I got them. They're upbeat and energetic. They can also be incredibly impatient and also can deal with a lot of anxiety. These are people who move very, very quickly. These are the like non-stop. Like these are the people you look at their lives and you're like, how in God's name are you doing so much? That's usually this group. Anybody feeling particularly aggressive or assertive? Yeah?